Together we'll chant verses 11 to 20, chapter 7. Balam balavatam kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha ye chaiva satvika bhavaha rajasastamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidhi na tvaham teshu te mai tribhir gunamayai bhavaihi ebhi sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mamebhya paramavyayam दैवी एषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः मायया परुतज्ञानाः आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जना सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्तः एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मेव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति समहात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैरुतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. Okay, so welcome everybody from Zoom and from YouTube Live. We are on chapter 7. Today we have to start the 17th verse. But before we summarize what we did last time and proceed, does anybody have any questions? Those on YouTube, I don't know how you ask questions, but you may like to join us on Zoom if you have any questions. Anybody on Zoom has any questions? Yeah, Hari Om Shamji.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask question of yesterday? Just second, Swadharma.
Preferably if everybody restricts, yeah, because we don't know now, we'll have to explain to everybody new what is Swadharma and all that, otherwise they won't know what's going on. So preferable if we keep questions of a class to a class. If they're general questions, of course we can take those. Maybe we should do one question answer class sometime, so everybody can ask whatever they want. Anyone else has something pertaining to our topic or general question?
Janki ji, can I ask a question on last week's Bhagavad Gita class?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Arjuna, which category did he belong to? Like seeker of the emotional peace or seeker of knowledge or the wise?
Which category he belonged to? It is Arjuna belonged to no category at this stage because he's not even seeking the divine. He at the moment just wants, he just maybe emotional solace. He's so upset at the moment, he doesn't know what to do. And he's just lucky that Krishna happens to be with him at that time. So, what kind of seeker is he? I suppose at this stage he can only be seeking some kind of emotional solace or direction, if you call him a seeker. But I don't even know whether he's making any attempt to go to the divine over here. He is in a trouble. There's somebody standing next to him, so he's holding on to that chapter. That's it. I don't. He has no comprehension of what he's doing. At least he gives no indication of any comprehension of what he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, in the 11th chapter, he asks for Krishna's forgiveness for not knowing who he was talking to. So one assumes that at least up to now, he is he's a drowning man, so he's just holding on to whoever's next to him.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else has anything? Okay, so let's see, what were we studying? Last verse, we began with the 4 virtuous types who worship God. Now, people are very enthusiastic about religion and they all trying to go to places of religious worship or undertake some kind of religious, experience or some kind of religious interaction. So, like they go to a temple or a church or a mosque, or they may attend Gita classes, Bible classes, whatever, some classes, or they may take up to japa and meditation, and they may do murti puja. I mean, various kinds of interactions people take up to in the spiritual path, in their attempts of being on the spiritual path. And most importantly, they don't consider the basics of it. It's like, what is this path meant for? Why? What am I doing it for? What they are really doing it for is, of course, evident from what they are saying. So they go to the temple or the church or the mosque, they go to the dargah, they go to Mount Mary, they go to Siddhi Vinayak. What is the point of all this? The point of all this is, first one, he says, the artharthi. Artharthi means somebody who is wanting to get some kind of wealth. Wealth meaning all types of material success. So some people go to God because they want material success. Some people go to God because they want emotional solace. Some people go to God because they just want to satisfy some kind of intellectual curiosity. So each person is going to God. Going to God means undertaking some of this religious paraphernalia, excuse me, with the intent of either getting some wealth or some solace or some secular knowledge. By secular knowledge, you may say, what? We are also trying to get knowledge. Yes, we are trying to get knowledge, but it's very different from a person who approaches the spiritual path with the concept of curiosity. Curiosity means, excuse me, means that they are just it's like a matter of intellectual curiosity, like what does the Gita say, or what does the Bible say, or what does that Upanishad say. They like to know that what is the they take some book and do some kind of intellectual gymnastics with it, because the point of it is just to be able to sort of say or to know that maybe I know the whole Gita by heart, or I I've read Shankara's commentary on the Gita, and I read Ramanuja's commentary on the Gita, and whatever, make all these, uh, what should I say, all sorts of intellectual gymnastics about it. So, so some people approach it only with the idea of this intellectual curiosity, as it were. So we have these three types of people who approach God: one for material gains, one for solace, and one for intellectual curiosity. And then there's the fourth one. The fourth one is the one who does it correctly. Here he's called the Jnani. Jnani means he has, please don't go by these words, because in the Gita, Krishna will keep on changing the usages of these words. So don't go by the word. What he's trying to say is the Jnani is the good interest in knowing how to live and follow. The Jnani is the person who is approaching the spiritual path for the purpose of self-realization or for the purpose of self-purification. So Uttara has a question. Now let me just read that question out to you. Uttara says, could interest in knowing how to live fall under the third category of a seeker? No, that doesn't fall under the third category, but it also depends on what you mean by interest in knowing how to live. If interest in knowing how to live is to do with self-purification, self-development, to understand how to live is a how shall I say, is a pretty broad term. I want to know how I should live, so maybe I can go and find out from somebody who teaches about health, or somebody who teaches about finances, or somebody who teaches about relationships. I can go and learn how to live from such people, right? So that's not what's included here. What's included here is to understand what are those things, how do I purify myself more so that my life is better. In that sense, it is not just how to live, but the methodology of how to live is always self-purification. So when you're looking at it like that, then definitely it's not in the third category, it will be in the fourth category. People who are looking for self-development, self-improvement, self-purification, they understand that actually in life what is happening is that all my problems are self-generated. Now how they are being self-generated, I need to find out. It is a great truism to say that all my problems are self-generated, but then how, what, especially when I see the other person is making the mistakes, then how is it self-generated? I can't understand that, right? So trying to figure that out is part of being a jnani, trying to understand what is going on. So there are these four types of seekers. Is that okay, Uttara? So the answer is depends on what you mean by that term. So now this off. So you can see that there is these four types of people who approach the spiritual path, and the next verse tells us who amongst these four are the best. Tesham jnani nityayuktah ekabhaktirvishishyate priyo hi jnaninotyartham aham sacha mama priyah. Tesham jnani nityayuktah ekabhaktirvishishyate priyo hi jnaninotyartham aham sacha mama priyah. A very soothing verse this is. It says, Tesham jnani nityayuktaha. Tesham means amongst them. The jnani, who is a nityayuktaha, who's got single-pointed attention on the self, on self-development, on self-purification, on self-improvement, on the merger with the divine. You can call it any of these terms. They're all synonymous terms. So he said, so that nityayuktaha, he has single-pointed focus on his growth. Eka bhaktir means he has one bhakti. He has one interest in life. Vishishyati, such a person excels. This is true not only for the spiritual path but also for the material path, right? So you will excel in any field if you have single pointed focus on that field. Priyo hi jnanino artham. Priyo is dear. Jnaninaha atyartham. Ati artham. Like a lot. He is very, very dear to me. He is extremely dear to me. Sacha mama priyaha. I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. So if you are a jnani, you are beloved by the Lord. You love the Lord and you are beloved by the Lord. Basically, he's trying to tell us that of these four categories, the seeker of wealth, the seeker of solace, the seeker of intellectual curiosity, and the jnani. Who is the jnani? He's eka bhakti, he's nitya yuktaha. Eka bhakti means he's interested in one thing. Nitya yuktaha, he's always focused on that thing. Savishishyate, he excels, he's the best of this lot. He is very dear to me and I am very dear to him. Now, when you see that here is the Lord's declaration himself, this is not something we are making up. The Lord himself is saying that the purpose of spiritual growth is enlightenment. Please do not use it for all these other things that seem to be have gained predominance. So when you read this, wait a second, when you read this, Ashay, I'll just come to your question. When you read this, you will just naturally wonder, you know what? All across, all over the place, everybody involved in religion is either doing it for wealth or solace or curiosity, right? And most of the teachers, most of the spiritual books, most of the priests, and everybody associated with religion and religion itself permits this. It sounds crazy, right? All the temples are set up there. They're set up there and they are telling you, come here and ask God. In fact, it's very sweet. In Bhakti, sometimes I've heard this sentence said that if you don't ask God for something, who are you going to ask? You're like a child. God is like your mother or your father. So whatever you want, like a free child, go and ask God and he will give it to you. And it's a very sweet statement and you can really appreciate the way the Bhakti Yoga expresses these things. And they are quite, they're very sweet in the way they say it. Unfortunately, jnanis are not so sweet. They just say, you know, very dry intellectual truths. But the bhaktas say it quite cutely. They say, of course you should ask God. If you don't ask God, who will you ask? He's your father, he's your mother. A child, whenever the child wants something, he goes to the father. So what's your problem with asking him? And here is Gita, in the Gita, Krishna himself saying that jnani vishishyate. So what's going on? You know, you just try to figure this out. How is it possible that on one hand, religion allows you to ask God and in fact sets up all these grand structures where you're supposed to go and ask God. And on the other hand, Krishna says, no, this is, jnani vishishyate. So I don't know whether it just seems very dichotomous to us. It seemed very dichotomous to me at least, that how come on one hand accepted religion lets you do that and on the other hand Krishna says this. So you need to think about this. When you think about it, it might occur to you that there's a good reason why religion allows you to do that. Think of our culture. We come from a culture where duties are important, not rights. This is our culture. This is the base of the way an Indian lives. It is the most standard practice. In fact, in our culture, we don't think it's a very good thing to ask. You know, they say your real stature is when you're a giver, not when you go begging like that. So our whole culture is designed around us giving, around us doing our duties, around us being very focused on being service oriented. Now, what happens in some cases is that in all this stuff, a particular individual's desires or needs may get ignored, may not be satisfied, may and that person may be under a situation where he or she is doing whatever they have to do, but the other party may not, like everybody is not universally good, right? The other party may not be so generous in following duties and service and all that. So what happens is that some people come into a position of great sorrow or great unhappiness or maybe just discomfort, and they don't know what that discomfort is coming from. They are saying, I'm doing everything. All forms of sorrow or discomfort or anything come because we have an unfulfilled desire within ourselves. This is a basic fact of life. There can be no sorrow unless there is a deep desire which is unfulfilled. So when we're experiencing this kind of deep sorrow, then sometimes we get into all this confusion in our own heads, and we create all this I don't know what, I don't know if you even notice it during when new students come into the class and they are like sort of confused in their head. They'll ask very confused questions, and then everybody says, why do you like people ask you questions? But the fact is we have to sort of help each other and come out of our state. Now, given that a person is in that confused, unhappy state, and how will religion help? So, you see what modern psychology does. It helps you. It helps you to. It helps you to sort of at least identify what you want. So when you go to God and you say to God, when I say go to God means when you go to the murti or you go to the temple and you say to God that, you know what, oh God, I'm very unhappy, I want X, whatever the X is. You've taken the first step towards your happiness, which is at least knowing what you want. Most people get into this confused state, they don't know what they want. So when you are able to say to God, I want this, whatever it is, then at least that's your first step. And when you're clear about what you want, you will usually go around doing the things necessary to get whatever it is you want. And maybe that will put you on the right track as far as your life is concerned, because it's important for you to get that thing. So you must go ahead and make some attempt to get it. You may succeed or you may not succeed. That's not important, but make some attempt to get it. Can everybody put themselves on mute, please? Unless you have a question, please keep yourself on mute. So maybe that's why religion permits you to go and ask God, because at least then you become clear about what you want, and then hopefully you will be able to work towards it. Therefore, religion, it is not a nishiddha karma. Nishiddha karma in religion means what you're not allowed to do. Right? It's not nishiddha karma to go and ask God. However, in fact, even in the Gita, he's accepting. He's saying there are 4 virtuous types, 4 good fellows who come to me. But of them, jnani is the best. So that you have found that you can go to God and express what you could not have expressed to anybody else because of fear of judgment or whatever it is, it's taking a first step forward, right? So in that sense, it may be good. So now, this is of course a matter of personal opinion, but it does occur to one that if religion is only meant for us to realize the self, why is it that we are permitted to go and ask God all these things? Why does he also call these types virtuous, who are going and asking God, which we think mad or something? If you want something, you go work for it. You don't go to a temple and ask for it. Things don't drop on our heads because God is tadastu and then something drops on our head. It doesn't work like that. You have to work for whatever you want. But maybe by the process of asking, you are able to get away from the judgment or the confusion or whatever and be able to word what it is you want. So maybe that's why it's allowed. But having understood this, let us get on to the more important part, which is understanding what is the right way of going about it. And the right way of going about it is always that we come to the spiritual path for our own development. So Ashia is asking, can you please elaborate how all our problems are self-generated? I'd love to just tell you, please go read the book. How do you know what you know? That explains how all our problems are self-generated, but I guess how are all our problems self-generated? Uh, so now, since we are doing this, let's classify our problems into three types of problems. We have one type of problem which is problems of material acquisition, and we have another type of problem which is problems of emotional distress, and we have a third type of problem is that we have intellectual questions or intellectual any type of cognitive order, like our intellect needs to put order to things, and sometimes if we don't have a way of putting an order to things, then it makes us uncomfortable. Another thing that comes under intellect is reputation, so what people think about us and all this sort of stuff. So we have, broadly speaking, three types of problems. Now, why are we not successful in the world as much as we would like to do? That means, why can't we get from the world whatever we want? That's because we have not applied ourselves in better and better ways of achieving that thing. We tend to just say, okay, now the world is so bad, or it's so difficult, or good people will do badly, or I'm not so corrupt as them, therefore I can't do well. We give ourselves some kind of very superficial and silly answers to these questions. So if you're the type of person who says, I really want to get something, I'm going to pay the price for getting that thing, whatever that price be, and I have to figure out in my own head what is stopping me, right? And then figure out what to do about it. Similarly, all my relationship issues are caused because there's something I'm not doing correctly. In some cases, it is because I am being too mean. In some cases, it is because I'm being too good. But there's something I'm not doing correctly. If at all and my relationships are not working, I have to figure out what is it that I am not doing properly. It may be that I'm being stubborn, I'm being irritating, I'm being nagging, I'm being whatever, possessive, attached, something I'm doing wrong. I am doing wrong. Or it could be that somebody else is doing something wrong and I don't know how to deal with this thing. So I have to figure that out. And same thing at the intellectual level. So any form of discomfort that I am going through, it's because, broadly speaking, my intellect is not able to get on top of the situation. And the moment I'm able to get on top of this situation, that means my intellect can figure out what's going on and make myself do whatever needs to be done, I don't have a problem. Is that okay, Ashya? I mean, obviously, this is a topic of all of Vedanta, so I don't know how to answer this. All our problems are self-generated. In terms of theory, is you see something as a problem only because there's a desire there which you are not able to govern. There's no other way to have a problem. So all our problems are nothing but an ungoverned desire, which means if your intellect is on top of the problem, it's not a problem at all. Okay, Ashya. Does anybody have anything else to say? No, have any other questions? Okay, so let's come back to this wonderful fellow, the Jnani. Let us hope that we become like the Jnani. What are the qualities of the Jnani? He's Nitya Yuktaha. Nitya Yuktaha means ever steadfast, ever joined, ever on the path. he will not shift from it. He will not shift from it. This is what happens when a person has a goal in life. Not shift from it. He will not say, I can't get it because of so and so, and I can't do it because of so, and this is stopping me, and that is stopping me, and there's no such thing. You can be focused on your self development when the world was not in lockdown, when you are rushing from pillar to post and doing all sorts of things, and you can be just as focused on your self development when you are in lockdown and you can't do these things. You can be focused on development when you are in sorrow. You can be focused on development when you are in joy. There is no circumstance uh, which necessitates that you're not focused on your development. That doesn't mean that all your actions are the same. It means that what you're trying to achieve is always the same. In different situations, you need to do different things. We are not living in a vacuum. We don't live in this, sort of a ball, which has surrounded us, and we stay safely in that. Oh no, not at all. We are out here in the world. We have to deal with things. Sometimes people do X, sometimes people do Y. We have to always be in a, what shall I say, relational mode. We are expressing sometimes anger, sometimes love, sometimes work, sometimes rest. We're expressing all sorts of things based on what is the situation. If your body is really tired, you need to rest, right? Or your intellect is really tired, it needs a rest. You can't just do anything that you have sort of randomly fixed on. So we have our schedules in life, we have things to do, like you have to get up in the morning and study, you have to do your exercise, just like you have to brush your teeth, just like you have to have a bath, just like that, you have to study, you have to do your exercises, you have to have food, proper, good, healthy food. These are non-debatable, non-negotiable things. Now, while we have our own schedule, whatever work we are doing or whatever schedule we have, we are also doing this in some context. So things will come to interfere with that schedule that you know already, right? You know that no day goes so well that nobody tells you anything, nobody phones you, nothing happens, and you can just do your schedule. Such a day doesn't happen. People will phone you, people will interrupt you, people will do all that. So your schedule is designed with those buffers, knowing that things are not always going to go according to my whatever. Whatever I have planned. So I keep buffer, I always keep buffer, that I know that. Sorry? Nidhi, are you trying to say something? Okay, so being focused on whatever you want to do, regardless of what is going on around, doesn't mean that you are not relational, doesn't mean that you're not reacting to what is going on, but you are going towards your goal, using your head about what to do about whatever is going on. It's not like you are, sort of put yourself in some kind of ball or something. Wait, what? Faizan, Faizan Javed. Javed, hi ma'am, I have a question. How do we do knowledge management in today's world of information? Which things we should avoid and which things we should read? Oh, Javed, you should read all those things that help you reach your goal and avoid all those things that don't help you reach your goal. Whatever is useful to you in the process of your living, that's what you should read. Useful doesn't mean that, if you want to be an engineer, you only read engineering. No, whatever is useful for you. It's useful for you to know how to handle finances. It's useful for you to live your life, to know how to handle your own mind. So many things are useful. So we try and study all those things which will help us reach our goal. So here is a jnani who is nitya yuktaha, means through whatever he is doing, he is focused on the goal, whether he's reading, whether he's working, whether he's having a relationship, whatever he's doing, he is focused on his goal. He's eka bhakti. Eka bhakti means single pointed devotion. This is another misunderstood thing. It seems like you're saying um, you should only love Krishna. That's not what it means. What it means is, just as your intellect is completely focused on your goal of self development, self realization, enlightenment, whatever it is, your mind must also want that. It is not that your mind wants to do something else and your intellect is pulling it somewhere else. No, this is what your mind wants. Eka bhakti means you are in love with wanting whatever it is your goal is. You can't not have your mind going with you. Your goal can never be something that your mind doesn't want, because the mind has the desire and the desire has the force. So when that force is used well, we come up in life. When that force is used badly, we go down in life. So we have to have, it's like a tailwind. When you have the tailwind, it'll go with you. It'll take you forward much more. So he's eka bhakti, single pointed devotion. Whatever you are seeking to pursue in life, your mind must want that. And because it wants that, it will be willing to make the sacrifices that are required to achieve that, because nothing is going to be achieved without sacrifices. And what are you going to sacrifice? You're going to sacrifice your own likes and dislikes. So what are the qualities of the jnani? Firstly, his intellect is totally focused on his goal. Secondly, his mind loves that goal. He really wants that thing. And therefore he is going to be willing, the mind is going to be willing to put in the effort of sacrificing the likes and dislikes. Otherwise, there's always a tussle between the mind and the intellect. The mind is going in one direction, intellect is going in another direction. You can't do that. There has to be some buy-in by the mind. Even after that, the mind will act funny, because the mind is a bit crazy. It'll act funny even after that. But there has to be some buy-in by the mind. Now, if you have that, that means both your mind and your intellect are dedicated to that. Then he says, Priyo hi jnanino atyartham. So, I am extremely dear to the jnani. Aham sacha mama priyaha. I am extremely dear to him, and he is extremely dear to me. This gives us a law of life, that love is always reciprocal. If you love somebody, then that person has to love you back. Life is always reciprocal. This is just something about life. But all Advaitins know that there is no concept of God loving us. There is no concept that Brahman will love us. So what does this supposed to mean? That I am dear to him and he is dear to me. It means that if you understand what is love, love is identification. So I am dear to him and he is dear to me. I am dear to him obviously because he's his goal, right? And how are we dear to Brahman? What that means is that when we identify with Brahman, we are getting closer to him. Getting closer to him means we are shortening the gap between who we think we are and who we really are. We at the moment consider ourselves to be the body, mind and intellect, right? But what we are is Brahman. So as this gap reduces, we are said to be going closer to him. Identification is nothing. What is perfect identification? That you and I are one. So Brahman and I are one is perfect identification. But if I'm focused on the goal of becoming Brahman, then I am going closer and closer to Brahman. That's what he means. He is dear to me. Do not understand this as preferential attachment. Now even God has preferential attachment. That if I love him, then he will love me. But if I don't love him, then he won't love me. There's no such thing. This is childishness. Even a relatively wise person does not deal with people like that. If you love him, then he loves you, and if you don't love him, then he, oh, I don't want to talk to you. This is childish behavior, right? So obviously God is not like that, that you claim great love for God and then God claims great love for you. That's not what it means. So I hope that is clear. What it means is that we gain identification with the self, and as we are going there, we're going closer and closer to identification, and therefore your atyantam, is very, very, very dear to me. Okay, so of them means of the four types. Which were the four types? The one who is looking for wealth, the one who is looking for solace, the one who is looking for intellectual curiosity, and the jnani. Of these four types, of them, the jnani, ever steadfast with single pointed devotion, excels. Because last verse he didn't tell us who the jnani was. He told us there are these three types who are really not, they don't come up to the mark, but the jnani does. So who is this type? That his mind and intellect are totally dedicated towards his growth, ever steadfast with single pointed devotion. Sa Vishishyate, he excels. He is the real spiritual sadhak. And such a person is approaching the self. That's what verse 17 says. Manisha says, does a jnani also goes to the stage of intellectual seeker, that is the third type of seeker first? No, Manisha, there are no stages like this. It is not necessary that anyone in any one stage will go to the next stage, and it is also not necessary that anybody at any particular stage has been through any other stage. For instance, those who come with intellectual curiosity may not have had any need to go to God and ask for money in the past. So, does a jnani also go through the stage of intellectual seeker? That is the third type of seeker first? No, there is no such need. A jnani may begin as a jnani. When Shankaracharya wanted to get enlightened, or Buddha wanted to get enlightened, they didn't even try to get any of the other things. And many of the people who try to get the other things never make it to being a jnani. So, answer to the question is no, Manisha, that they don't have to.
Thank you.
Okay, so verse 17 clear? Any questions further on verse 17? If not, we'll go to verse 18. Udara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam astita sahi yuktatma Mamevānuttamam gatim udara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam astita sahi yuktatma mamevānuttamam gatim. Udara sarva evaite. Udara means noble. Udaraha, noble, good, virtuous. All these four types are virtuous. Now, why are the first three virtuous? They are not even interested in him, but he still calls them virtuous. Udara sarva evete. All these four types are indeed virtuous, are indeed good. So, why are the first three good? They are not even bothered about him. They are good because at least their direction has changed. At least they have sort of figured that there is something in life beyond what is immediately perceivable, feelable, or conceivable. They have at least conceived the possibility of something beyond it all. Of course, they are looking upon it in a childish manner, that thing is going to come and do so many things for us. But at least they have conceived it. At least they have gone beyond just seeing what is self-evident. At least there is something there. So he says, Udara Sarva Evete. Remember, he's comparing to the demoniac types who don't even consider it. So he says, at least these people have considered it, so they are good, they are noble people. Jnani Tvat Eva Me Matam. Me Matam is my opinion. He says, Udara Sarvaeti. All of these are noble, but the Jnani I deem as verily myself. Now, this is a very interesting part of the Gita because it brings us to a important concept which is there in all the scriptures, but in Vedanta it's very well demarcated, let us say, and that is the concept of Shruti and Smriti. Shruti means what we have heard. Smriti is what we have remembered. Shruti represents the eternal laws of life. It's like your conscience. It's the voice of truth, as it were. That's what you hear. It's supposed to be the voice of God. These are the eternal principles. They're true for all people at all times. Shruti is what is the most important, most essential part of spiritual education. Every scripture has Shruti. Every scripture means across the globe. All scriptures have Shruti. And all scriptures also have Smriti. Smriti is not eternal principles, but they're the opinions of the prophet given to a certain set of people in a certain period of time, and this is useful for them. All the religions are smritis. Smritis means it is the opinion of a prophet given by that prophet to a certain set of people in a certain place and time. Therefore, everything in that cannot be applicable to all times, all places, and all people. But the Shruti is such that is applicable to all people at all times, in all places. So you can imagine Shruti is like really small. They're just the sort of basic laws of life and living. And the Smriti is what the great masters came to us, came to this globe time after time and helped people convert the Shruti into something practical, into something doable. So if you see the various scriptures, like in Gita for instance, there is some part which is Shruti, which is an eternal truth. And there is another part which is Smriti, which is his opinion. Like when he says, Kshetragnyam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Know me to be the Kshetragnya in all kshetras. Know me to be the enlivening principle in all fields and all bodies. Then that is an eternal principle. But when he tells Arjuna, get up Arjuna, fight. Now this is not Shruti, this is Smriti. Smriti because this is the opinion of the prophet given, of a great wise man, given to a particular person at a particular time. There's a context to that. So if you have an old grandmother at home, you can't go to the grandmother and say, oh granny, Krishna says, get up and fight. No, it's irrelevant for her. It's not the right advice for her. It's the right advice for Arjuna, because Arjuna is a warrior. Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He has a righteous battle in front of him. He has to go fight. That doesn't mean you and I should pick up fights with anybody nowadays. So Shruti is what is always applicable. When he says, follow your Swadharma, this is Shruti. You have to do that. But when he says, go fight, then that is Smriti, because that is applicable to Arjuna, whose Swadharma is to fight. So all the prophets did that. When Christ says, if someone smotes thee on one cheek, lend him the other. This is smriti, because this is an action that is prescribed to us. It's a do, it's a don't. But when he talks about love your neighbor, then this becomes having universal love. When he talks about that, then this becomes shruti, because this is universally true. Every one of us, all times, have to have that identification. If we lack the identification, we are going to suffer. But now, whether that identification should lead us to, if someone smacks you on one cheek, you give him the other or not, is a matter of what that situation is, right? Christ said, give him the other cheek, and Krishna said, go and fight. So they can have these different pieces of advice based on what is the context, but the basic law will not change. Even in Islam, when they say that La ilaha illallah, there is only one God and He is Allah, then this is an eternal truth. It's always true. There is only one God, right? There are no 25,000 gods. There's only one God, an eternal truth. But if His advice to us is marry 4 times, then now that is a matter of being applicable to a certain people at a certain period of time. This may or may not be applicable to all people at all times. So the scriptures are divided into 2 things, the Shruti and the Smriti. And the law is that whenever there's a clash between Shruti and Smriti, then you follow Shruti. You follow the eternal principles. Because the Shruti is like a prescription. A doctor has done his MBBS, so we can compare that to the Shruti. He has this all knowledge about medicine. But when you go to him as a patient, you ask him, what am I supposed to do? He'll give you a prescription. Now, this prescription cannot be given to your friends, however much you may love them. You can say, hey, I went to my doctor and he gave me such a good prescription, I got better, and you also use this prescription. Maybe that prescription won't work for them. So there is Shruti and there is Smriti. Shruti are eternal truths applicable to all people at all times, and Smriti is that which is applicable to somebody at some time, may or may not be applicable to other people at other times. Now, all scriptures have this combination, because if the prophet only tells us the eternal truths, we will go to him and say, okay, what do I do? So then he tells you what to do. But the eternal truth is what we have to follow for every generation, not that particular advice may or may not be applicable in some other generation. Now, in Vedanta, what happens is, in the Gita especially, it's beautiful, because whenever Krishna gives his opinion, he says so. He says, here is my opinion. That means this is my prescription to you, Arjuna. Now, this may or may not be applicable at another time. And that's what's so great about it. Because even if we miss what is Shruti and what is Smriti, he will tell us. So we take Gita as Shruti. Whenever he is going to tell us Smriti, he's going to tell us. So right here he tells you, Me matam. Me matam means my opinion. The Smriti is the opinion of the prophet given to a certain person at a certain period of time. So he says, Me matam, this is my view, this is my opinion. So he says, noble indeed are all these, but the jnani is verily myself. That is my opinion. Now you may say, but why? That is not opinion, that should be Shruti. That if you are a jnani, then you will become the self, right? So that's not opinion. He is very particular. It is opinion because it's something like this. He says, the jnani, I'm going to consider myself. In what sense do you mean that? It's in the sense like, the airport, sometimes they'll point to a plane and they say, that's Calcutta, that's New Delhi, that's Mangalore or something, let's say. Now, when you say that's Calcutta or that's New Delhi or that's Mangalore, the plane is not Calcutta, right? What they mean is, if you have a proper ticket and you sit in that plane, you will reach Delhi or Calcutta or wherever. That's what he means. He says, if you are this type of jnani, it is a given that you will reach the self. So, but at the moment you can't say now that he's realized. That's why he says, "Me matam." This is, I am going to consider you as good as having reached. Vidushi just wanted to ask if Vedanta and Krishna himself in the Gita talks about not bothering about the fruit of your action, then how does one pointed focus on a goal reconcile with this? Yes, Vidushi. Vidushi, is this your first Gita class or have you been attending previously?
I have been in previously.
You have been? Okay. So, yes, you're right when you say that Krishna says don't bother about the fruit of action. Karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Your right is only action. Karmani adhikaraste ma phaleshu. Never phal, never fruit. However, I'm lucky that you have read it from himself only, single pointed focus. Otherwise, you'll say Krishna says don't think about the fruit, and therefore people drop a goal. We have to differentiate between having a goal and having a fruit. Fruit is something that is in the mind, meaning my mind is craving for the result of the action. When I have this, my action gets impaired, means I can't function so well because my mind is not going to focus on the action, it's focusing on the result of the action. So, so whenever my mind gets fruit oriented, I push the goal further away. Means I make it more difficult for myself to achieve that. But if I don't have a goal, then I don't know what I should be doing in the first place. A goal is a fruit which is in the intellect. The fruit is a goal, call it that, which is in the mind. So the same thought, when it's in the mind, it interferes with action. The same thought, when it's in the intellect, directs action. So this thought, I want to be self-realized. Then my mind has got a craving for it. Even when you're listening to class, you're thinking I should be self-realized. It's totally irrelevant, right? So you have to listen to the point which is being made. So when the thought is in the mind, it is called a fruit. It impairs action. When the same thought is in the intellect, it is called a goal. It gives you a direction for action. Means it helps you choose your action. It tells you which action to perform. So you have to have single pointed focus on your goal, but no fruit. Is that okay with Dushi? Wait, now what has happened here?
Thank you.
Sorry?
Thank you. That just
Yeah, I didn't hear you. Yes, is that fine?
yes, thank you. It made it very clear.
Okay, so Manisha, isn't all the four Vedas are Shruti texts since they have been heard by the seers during extraordinary state of consciousness, whereas commentaries on various Shruti texts are Smriti, which is a derivative work produced out of the intellect attributed to an author. Yes, but yes, you can classify it like that, but that's a sort of superficial classification. Any part, anything which is an eternal law is Shruti by definition, because it's always applicable to all people at all times. And anything which is an opinion, which is a do or a don't, is Smriti. Now, what you're saying is a very, what shall I say, superficial. Yes, it's a very basic definition, the sort you'll sort of read in school or something, where Vedas are Shruti and everything else is Smriti. No, in the Vedas also there is Smriti, so that's not entirely true. In fact, you know that the gods of the Vedas are no longer our gods today, right? Indra, Varuna, all these, who's worshipping them today? So the words of the seers, which have been seen in an extraordinary state of consciousness, means with their third eye, which means they are able to see something about life beyond what we are seeing. It's not extraordinary in some kind of abnormal sense, but just the clarity to see the truth about life. So that is recorded in the Vedas, and that portion is all the Shruti. Upanishads are all the Shruti. Now, is that okay, Manisha?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Can self-realization be different from for different people, says Nidhi? No, Nidhi, self-realization is exactly the same because you're going to find the same truth. Can't be different for different people. Now, more messages.
So the truth is basically, madam, just to clarify, the truth is basically saying that we are a pure soul. To realize that you are a soul, a part of the universal energy, or a part of extension of God, or
No, it's not saying that. The truth is you are God. You're not
okay.
part of anything. You are it. There's nothing further. You are it. You are that universe. You are that universal soul, as you call it. That is your
Right.
real state.
Okay. And also one more question, madam. If suppose say a human being, they say that every human being is born for a higher purpose. So like they say that some people, some human beings during their life also they don't realize the purpose of the life, and some do. So does in the path of a spiritual seeker, or maybe a person who wants is working towards self realization, also realize their purpose at the same time, the purpose of the birth on planet or
Nidhi, there's only one purpose of human existence, and that is to realize the self. So when you're on the spiritual path, that's what you're doing.
Okay. But apart from that, like suppose say somebody is born to do X, Y, Z. Suppose Bill Gates was born to do whatever. Suppose say Dhirubhai Ambani was born to do whatever. So I'm talking about those kind of things, whether it be philosophy or something in the journey to do with the career or something like that. Something for the higher good of society.
There's only one purpose, and if by becoming Bill Gates the individual goes closer to that purpose, then he has achieved his purpose, not otherwise.
Right. Got it. Thank you, ma'am.
Sid, how does one define mind? I can understand conjecture, intellect. Gosh, there seem to be a lot of questions. Should we be taking them in the next class? Okay, I'm just going to do these questions very quickly because we are beyond the time. So, Sid, how does one define mind? Mind, Sid, is your emotions, your likes and dislikes, your whims and fancies, the whole irrational side of your personality. Intellect means discrimination, reason, judgment, analysis. All this comes under intellect. Now, I'm not taking clarifications because we'll be here till tomorrow. So, Sid, if you have any further questions, we'll take it up in the next class. Sahadev. Sahadev is a wise man, a jnani in the Gita. No, Sahadev, wise man is not jnani in the Gita. Wise man is called by many names in the Gita, and in this particular context, jnani is the wise man. Wise men are called by different names in the Gita. Also, the word jnani is used in sometimes not in a wise man sense. So in this case it is, but not in other places of the Gita. Then when Sangita, when Krishna says Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, that is Smriti for Arjuna. No, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja is Shruti because it is true for all people at all times. Every one of us has to not has to. The purpose of human existence is to merge with the self, is self-realization. So that is what he's saying, that use self-realization as your self-realization is the focus of human existence. So that is Shruti, that is not Smriti, because he's not referring to Mr. Krishna, he's referring to Brahman, to the self.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om. Rajesh, when is the next class? This class is on Sunday, but there are 4 classes that go on every week: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then what else? Have I covered everybody? Okay, so then that's it for today. We'll continue next time. Hari Om.
Mother's Day.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Mother's Day, Janki ji. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.